What's up, everybody? My name is Jay, and welcome back to Jay Book Reviews. Now, it's been a while, well, sorta. It's been like a month since I did any videos, and it's because I want to take a break from reading, and also I'm kind of busy at the moment. I have a job right now, and since I got a job, I've been buying more books. So after this video, after I do this Stephen King review, I'm going to do a book haul video right afterwards to show you what I got in storage for you. Anyway, so since I've been busy for the past month, I decided to come back into reading, and that is to read Stephen King because it's been like a while, a very uh, 6 month kind of while since I haven't read Stephen King because I want to take a break from him. I wanted to read more classic literature, more books that I wanted to read, more horror books in general. So I decided to take a break from that too and decided to pick up a Stephen King book since I have my collection over here. So, what book I'm going to review? You probably already know the title for once. It's Rose Madder. This was released in 1995. It's considered as one of those underrated gems. Uh, what do you mean underrated? It's pretty much described as it was a book that is pretty much forgotten. People seem to forget, but to me, I can understand why it was forgotten because it just seems like it's out of his world in this one. But I digress. I'm going to talk about the premise of the story. I'm not going to spoil a minimum, only just the beginning of the book. That's it. But everything else, I'm going to try to keep a minimum because I don't want to spoil it. And I'll talk about my thoughts and what I think of this book in general. So, let's talk about the book. The premise of the story is about this woman who is Rose Daniels, who is a victim of abuse to her husband, Norman Daniels, who is a town hero, town cop, and he pretty much beats on his wife, tortures her, and does all messed up things to her. And in the beginning of the book, uh, she was pregnant, and while in the beginning of the book she gets pregnant, and also while in the beginning of the book, I'm getting a little the in the beginning of the book, she ends up getting punched in the stomach, and she was pregnant at the time, and she got a miscarriage from Norman because she was reading a book by Paul Sheldon. If you don't know what Paul Sheldon is, he's from Misery, and that's a great book, by the way. You should read it. And the reason why is because Norman doesn't like seeing her do those things, like reading any type of things and all that, and he pretty much punches her in the stomach or something like that, and she gets a miscarriage. We then go 14 years later, and the abuse is still going on. Nothing has changed. So finally, Rose ends up changing the bed sheets and notices a spick of blood comes out of her nose and drops. To her, that didn't happen one time. It happened numerous times since she was like doing something. And to her, this is a sign of, if I keep staying here and Norman keeps punching me over and over again, one day he's going to end up killing me. So what does she do? She ends up leaving the house, taking his credit card, and withdrawing all of his money, and throws it in the trash, and heads somewhere so far away that Norman can't find her. In case you haven't noticed, Norman is a very good cop, a very good detective, that he's really good at finding things. And he will track you down so hard that you will probably can't hide no more. So she goes to this place called Daughters and Sisters. It's a place where women get abused, and it's like a women's shelter for women who get abused from people from all over, and they pretty much start a new life. She does, and it turns really well for her. Then we cut back to Norman, because in this book, there's two perspectives in this book. We have Rose, and we have Norman. When you read Norman, it's like reading a journal psychopath, or going into the mind of a psychopath, because he really wants to find her so really bad that he wants to do the unthinkable to her. He wants to he describes what he wants to do with her, kill her in the worst way. And if people get in her way, or get in his way, he will kill that person. Now, we cut back to Rosie, and she's doing well. It's been like 6 weeks, and she's doing well. She got herself a new apartment since the people over there help her, her daughters and sisters. She gets a new job because she was offered a job at a pawn shop that she went over, and while she was at the pawn shop, she was trading her wedding ring, and she looks over and she finds a really nice painting, and she likes the painting and she trades it over for her husband's wedding ring. And the pawn shop agrees, and they become in love. The pawn shop cashier becomes in love with Rose, and his name is Bill, which he's a really good character. He's a really good boyfriend in this book. He's really caring. He's really charming, and he pretty much does a good trade with her. And while that goes on, she gets a pet picture because the woman in the picture, it kind of looks like her, and she loves it, so she buys it, and she gets offered a job as she leaves from an old man that does audiobooks, and offers her a job to do a narrator for doing audiobooks, and she takes the job and she gets paid loads of money because of it. So she goes back to her home, and she finds out that the painting is not... she doesn't know who made the painting because it doesn't have a name. The only thing it has is the painting's known as Rose Madder. And while she hands out the picture becomes alive. Typical Stephen King thing. Anything in Stephen King becomes weird. But the thing that gets interesting is where when the painting does come alive, she gets transported into the painting mid to the book. And it pretty much has connection with the Dark Tower because this is considered as Dark Tower canon. And she gets teleports to a really cool looking fantasy section of the book. And it takes place in Midworld, for those of you who love Dark Tower. And she meets Rose Madder, but she has her back turned because she can't turn around because if she looks at her, you go mad. And she has to do her a favor by retrieving a baby from an evil bull, Ernie's. I can't pronounce the name. And she does get the baby, and she says that she will repay her no matter what if she's in any danger. And that's all I'm gonna say, because this is pretty much what you get. It's pretty much like when you watch Rose, it's like a typical, like, she feels really centered, but when she goes in the painting, I love the part when they go in the painting. A lot of people don't. I've seen some reviews saying that Stephen King seems like he's trying too hard with this book, and he certainly does, but to me, I think he does a good job at this one. I can understand why a lot of people don't appreciate this book, but I think they should, because this is by far one of his good books in the 90s, because some of those books in the 90s were either hit or miss. This one was probably by far his other good ones in the 90s that I do enjoy. I enjoyed it. I loved reading Rosie with her new life, and also liked Norman, which we see him doing the most worst, gratuitous things ever. He tortures people and does all sorts of shit to get answers to find where Rose is. And it was just interesting. I actually loved how he's getting closer and closer as the book progresses, and when he does finally get to her, it's like an intense page turner. The ending, however, I'm not gonna spoil, is when they get into the painting. It gets so cool. It just comes out of nowhere. I just didn't expect to reveal what Rose Madder, who she is, why that they don't reveal why they have to look at her, but when you do, I didn't expect it. It was cool. I loved it. But overall, his ending for this was not bad as usual. I know a lot of people gave shit about his endings, but overall I think his ending was not bad. I love the characters in this book. I wish she was more in the painting. That's my only complaint. I wish she was in more of the painting, where she explores the world, and it has a lot more of Greek mythology. It has that. Like there's like pillars, a temple, and that looks like a church with overgrown leaves or grass all over it, roses everywhere. Kind of reminds me of Greek mythology. I'm not a big fan of fantasy books, but this one was an exception. And I know a lot of people read Dark Tower. I've never read it in general. Um, but this one makes me want to read more Dark Tower because I feel like I want to read it, but I don't have any of the books. I just only have this one, or some other ones are connected to the Dark Tower. But I found this book enjoyable. Um, I love how in the beginning of the book, Rosie was just like when she ran away, she felt like a lost puppy to me. Like she just didn't know where to go. She felt lost, but it's because she was in her house most of the time preparing things for Norman because that's all she was good at. And when she finally goes to Daughters and Sisters, she gets all the help she needs, and she feels like a new woman. And it reminds me of Carrie a lot, except that she doesn't have powers. But I enjoyed this book overall. I liked the concept of this book. Um, I should probably tell people, you people need to go read this. Even if you go to your local libraries, local library or your bookstore, please pick this up. If you even find a paperback or anything, just pick this up. Um, I know a lot of people don't appreciate this one, but you should. This is actually a good end to the trilogy of his, I think, Abuse Women trilogy. I don't know what's he call it, but it's pretty much a trilogy, and this is a good end to the trilogy. I enjoy this. Is probably my second favorite of the trilogy. Overall, this book gets a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed this book. I'm glad I read this Stephen King book because usually when I read Stephen King, I'm always afraid of reading his other ones. But I'm glad I came back at it, and I'm looking forward to read his next book, which is I know it's supposed to be Desperation, but I decided to read this other one, which is considered as another fan favorite and considered one of the best ones. That is The Green Mile. I'm going to look forward to read that, but I'm probably not going to read it until after I do these other books, which will be in the next video. So anyways, that's it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like if you want to see more book reviews. And as always, see ya. Bye.